We all know gravity sucks.
There's accelerated aging occurring in the human body. I hope they're wrong on that personally, since I have 675 days in space. Space actually changes the human body in a lot of different ways. Everything from increasing your height, which I love. Unfortunately, it's only temporary. Without gravity, when you get into space, your spinal cord actually relaxes. You don't have gravity pushing all your vertebrae together. And when you go into space, you get taller slightly. I grew about half an inch, 3/4 of an inch. It causes low back pain as your column stretches out. But unfortunately, I didn't get to stay taller because as soon as I got back, within 24 hours, you shrink back down. Gravity does that to you. On orbit, we lose 1% of our bone mass in a month if we don't do anything about it. So it's like almost 10 times or a little bit more accelerated in space. Muscles are the same way. If we didn't do specific exercises, our muscles would get smaller and weaker while we were in space. So in order to counteract some of these negative effects, in particular the bone loss, we have what's called a resistive exercise device. Normally on the Earth, they would recommend that you lift weights. And of course, there's no weight in zero gravity, so you have to work against a resistance. And of course, when if you're losing bone mass at 1% per month, you're very motivated to do the exercise. So it's about 45 minutes to an hour every day of resistive exercise.
Best part about doing exercise in space is the view.
We see changes in vision. Some folks get actually worse vision or blotchy vision. I actually, after my last long duration space flight, came back with better vision. Usually it reverses quickly, but sometimes it's permanent changes. And the investigators are trying to understand all the nuances of what's going on with that. Initially, when you first get into space and you're no longer in gravity, the fluids come up and they're actually in your head and your chest to a much greater degree. So there's interesting processes that occur, which then affects you when you come back to Earth, because then you feel lightheaded in gravity because that fluid is gone. If I moved my head very quickly in certain directions, it would make me feel nauseous or unstable. I'm not the most coordinated person normally, but that wasn't. When I got back, I really felt like, those small balance muscles in your ankles and your knees and your hips all felt like they forgot how to work. I feel like I adapted to being in space a little bit easier than I adapt to being back on Earth. The lack of gravity changes not only in the human body, but just in surface tension, sedimentation, all those things, are affecting us at a microscopic and cellular level too. As far as we know, the accelerated aging is probably a combination of a lot of these factors, that bone demineralization process. Some types of cell growth are much faster in space, and so we're just trying to understand those details. Me in particular, I experienced getting skin allergies. Others have wound healing that is delayed. So there are definitely changes in the immune system. I really feel that exposing myself to these increased physical risks to find out some answers that are going to benefit people here on Earth is really, really important. There's so much benefit to the potential research that we can do using microgravity. So for me, looking at cancer cell growth and trying to eliminate cancer cell growth in space offers us a tool to look at that very quickly. In any sort of therapy development, there's a long process before human trials, and all of that takes a very long time. But with that accelerated growth of cancer cells, we can address that very quickly in space and say, yes, this drug worked, no, that one didn't, and try and focus our efforts for developing therapies on the ground. And it's so important to be part of that for me, it's worth the small risks that you have to take to go into space.